Hi, we're Urethane. I'm Dylan. I play drums.
I'm Steve. I play second guitar.
I'm Tim. I try to sing and play guitar.
So Urethane brings together musicians from diverse backgrounds. How do you approach blending your individual influences into the cohesive sound that is still like allows you guys to do your individual styles?
I'm gonna take a page out of our bassist Chad's book on this one, and I think having the diverse backgrounds allows us to really create something unique in a world that's already pretty saturated with the kind of music that we play. So each of us brings something special to this band to not only influence each other, but influence the way we write songs and the way we approach traveling and playing shows and all that, just to make sure that all of us are happy in what we're doing and it's not just one generic run of punk rock music. We've all collectively been in punk rock for the last 40 years, so we've seen things come and go, and being able to come from a skateboarding background, a pop punk background, a hardcore background, all those things really allows for us to meet in the middle in a really nice way. And then when any of us are, we'll say, coming up against a place where we might not creatively be understanding where the other is coming from, we're able to help each other get to a place where it's a unique product at the end of the day.
That's great. And your band name, Urethane, it's associated with skateboarding. Beyond the name, how does skate culture influence your music?
Well, music's always gone along with skating since I first started. You know, music has always been attached to it. It's kind of what drives the art and the sport of it, and it's something that gets you really pumped up. And also all the videos that we've produced have always had music attached to them, so they kind of set the mood of what you're seeing. But it also it's another side, another way to express ourselves in a creative way, rather like that you're on a skateboard. But and that's why I started a band in 1982, is because I wanted to experience that part of creativity, and music was another thing, another avenue for me to express myself. But I think what brings us all collectively together is we really grew up on 90s pop punk music, and I think that's our connection. And so a lot of our influences kind of like influence the band. So that's why I think it goes well. That's what makes it flow easy.
And the punk scene has long embraced the DIY ethics. As a relatively new band, how does your approach balancing the desire to stay independent with the need to grow and get exposure out there in today's social media network? How has that worked for you guys?
I mean, I think every band is a DIY band. There isn't really a band out there that's getting a ton of help. So, we've embraced it from the projects that we did before, even to this band. We still book our own shows a lot of the time. We have help doing it, but we do a lot of our own art for our graphics. Everything is still pretty hands-on as far as the DIY goes. So it's pretty important. I think if it's your art, it should definitely come from your heart and soul, and that's 100% DIY.
And as a band that formed during the pandemic, what challenges did you guys face in terms of writing, recording, and building a fan base in such a turbulent time?
We used the pandemic as a time to basically form this band. It was actually a really productive time for us, and we formed this band. We had a lot of songs ready to go, and as soon as the restrictions were lifted, we started playing shows, and we didn't really even know each other. So the pandemic was actually it was really good for us. Unfortunately for a lot of other people, but it was was great for us.
Yeah, we pretty much used the pandemic to our advantage. When most bands were kind of bumming out and kind of not knowing what to do, we used that time in a positive way to help form the band, get to know each other, and write music. So when it was over, we were ready to play. We already had an album written and recorded, and we were out to, show the world what we were creating, behind the scenes. And but the formula hasn't really changed when it comes to a band. You just gotta work it. You just gotta practice, do shows, tour as much as possible. If no one's out there putting your records out, you put your own records out. That's the meaning of punk rock, anyways. It's not waiting for other people to discover you. We're kind of just doing it on our own. And I think we haven't changed that formula, and we're still working super hard. And I'm not gonna lie, we want to be successful. And sometimes it takes longer for most bands, but we're willing to put the work in. That's why we're here today.
And given the state of punk rock today, how do you think that your band fits in the broader punk rock landscapes, and what do you think your band brings to the table in the unique time of today?
I think that we have been able to bring a new flavor to something that a lot of us are really nostalgic for. And in a world where nostalgia is such an important thing to these generations that are growing up, to be able to play music that people heard on Tony Hawk Pro Skater, or that they grew up playing with their friends and they were in high school. I think having that skate punk edge with the new influences, with the new bands, allows us to be in a place where it's not something that's 100% recycled, but it's familiar enough to where it's accessible. People are able to really gravitate to something that sounds like what they grew up on, but is a new thing.
And your music combines elements of punk grit and other things. When you're writing songs, what do you decide on leaning on when you're doing your melody versus keeping it raw and energetic?
So the cool thing about this band is that I write a lot of songs, and when I bring them to the band, they turn out to be something completely different than I kind of imagined, which at first I didn't know. I was kind of unprepared for that, but now I like that, because now I want to see what everybody's touches are going to be onto it, and it always makes it better. I don't know what you mean by raw, but the four of us bring a certain energy that I feel is unique to what Urethane sounds like.
I think every song starts off raw, and then it gets refined, and everyone kind of adds their own ingredient to make it sound good, and everybody has their own flavor, and obviously if the flavor doesn't sound good, then you're not putting it in the the final recipe of the song. But I mean, it even boils down to our producer. When we went into the studio, we did go into the studio raw, because I had just learned their songs, and I actually wrote my parts in the studio. I didn't even know what I was going into the studio with, but I came out with something different. And even like working with Cameron Webb from Maple Studios, he added a lot of his own flavor and his influences and his direction to the band, and helped enhance the album even more. So we're always open for suggestions and see what works and what doesn't.
And with social media and streaming playing such a large role in the music world today, how do you guys maintain authenticity while engaging with fans and promoting your music in a digital space?
Our our digital presence and our physical presence essentially are the same thing. We're doing it ourselves, going back to that DIY ethos with it. So instead of curating this idea that our internet presence has to be this really polished thing, you're seeing what we're doing. So if we're at Riot Fest, you're going to see the photos and the stories of us setting up, getting ready to play, the sound checking. There's really not a lot of behind the curtain stuff that we're technically hiding.
Right.
So we use it as a tool to amplify our voice, but not change who we are just to get a new crowd. We come as we are, and if you're not into it, come see a show. You'll probably change your mind.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way it should be. And your guys' songs often have an introspective feel while maintaining a sense of energy and urgency. How do you balance personal storytelling with keeping with the spirit of punk rock in your lyrics?
So that kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, which is I like to write. I'm influenced by a lot of singer-songwriters that like to dive deeper lyrically, and I like to write songs lyrically that people can identify with. So, just personal struggles, pretty common stuff. But that's kind of where the four of us come together. Is you can take that song and on face value you think like, oh, that's kind of a bummer, mellow song, but we'll turn it into something that's upbeat and something that is like you want to pit to. At the same time, if you dive deeper and you listen to lyrics, then you'll get sort of a different experience. Is what I hope people take away.
And punk rock has often been associated with rebellion, but what would you say that your band is rebelling against, if anything, in the current music or message in this time, like politically or anything?
Rebelling against working a normal job.
Rebelling against growing up.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Suit and tie
That's a beautiful. That's the most.
I think Steve put it really, really well there. Steve says this a lot of times. Like, age is just a number, and
Right.
being able to do this keeps us young. And I'm the young guy in the band, so being able to be with these guys when I'm 15 years their junior to these kinds of things, and I feel just as comfortable with them as I do my peers in the friend group that I grew up in. We're really just out here to try to just keep young and enjoy ourselves and be able to experience the world through the lens of punk rock. So I wouldn't say necessarily rebelling, but really just utilizing that to be able to go against the status quo of got to be married with kids and have a house and have a 9-to-5 job. We're all out here on a weekend. We're going to go back to work on Monday, and that's where we really kind of find our niche right there.
I think if anything, we're rebelling against the status quo. And basically, I do this band because I like to influence people in so many ways, whether it's this one, actually in a creative way. So music definitely helps people get connected. And if we can write a song that stokes someone out so much that they want to pick up an instrument and learn how to play and write their own stuff, that's my drive. It's not like I'm trying to make somebody angry or rebel against an establishment. It's an encouragement, inspiration for me.
Yeah, it's like I don't think it's necessarily something that is punk rock specific. I think if you're living your life unapologetically, then you're rebelling.
Yeah. Any last thoughts? Anything you guys want to plug before the end of?
Go listen to our music on Spotify. We've got an album and a single out. Cybertrex put out our record and that single. Just go to a punk show. Bring your kids out to a punk show. We all started going to shows when we were kids. So it starts there. Take your kids to shows, come out and see that, and let them get their own opinion of how they need to, we'll say, rebel against what they decide they want to rebel against.
Yeah, and you know, if you can write Fat Records, tell them to put out our next record. Encourage it.
There's a rumor that's been going around about this Fat Records signing. I don't know where it came from, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, thank you guys so much for giving me your time.
Awesome, man. Thanks.